unravelling the legacy. And this is the story of the tragic twins that could have become the F-Type. And as you'll find out, the development eventually resulted in the Aston Martin DB7 and the Jaguar XK8, and that's thanks to the tenacity of Tom Walkinshaw and Callum. The cars took on the code names of XJ41 for the coupe, and the Convertible being known as the XJ42, and they were under development as early as 1980. And if things had gone to plan, they would have been released as the F-Type in the 1986 timeframe. The initial idea was for a small, normally aspirated straight-six rear-wheel drive sports car, perhaps in the vein of a TVR Tasmin, a Lotus Esprit, or even the Ford Capri. But the whole thing seemed to go pear-shaped, without any entrepreneurial leadership, and there was even talk of a four-wheel drive and twin-turbo. It all came to a screeching halt in 1989 when Ford bought Jaguar. And that would have been the end of it, other than for Tom Walkinshaw, whose idea was for a light sports car that could fit on the XJS chassis. And this was at the time before the XK8 and even the Aston Martin DB7 were even thought of. It turned out both of them were eventually built on the XJS underpinnings anyway. Tom Walkinshaw had been instrumental in the development of the XJ220 and had an affinity with the XJS due to his race success with the car, and that included finding the winning post at Bathurst in 1985. Callum was Tom Walkinshaw's designer, and Ian noted some years later that Jaguar felt the platform was tired and out of date and rejected the whole idea. It wasn't until Callum produced the Aston DB7 on the XJS platform that prompted Ford, who then owned Jaguar, to question why Jaguar didn't do the same thing. And of course this in turn led to the XK8 being born following the Aston's success. But that's another story, and as detailed in one of my previous videos, XK X100 series 1996 to 2006. Let's get back to the XJ41. During the initial development period in the spring of 1980, the thoughts were to use the AJ6 engine, which was eventually destined for the XJS in 1983. The design was to follow from the E-Type with a clear reference to the 1978 XJS Spider, styled by Pininfarina, on an XJS that Jaguar had donated for the concept car to be built on. The Spider was shown at the British Motor Show. With the Pininfarina concept in mind, Keith Halford, the chief designer at Jaguar, had received the verbal approval from Sir William Lyons and used some of his ideas from his design of the XJ220, such as the folding inwards headlights and that curvous styling. Keith Halford's input into the design of the XJ41 laid out the theme for Jaguars during that period and to follow. He was Jaguar's designer between 1978 and 2022, being renowned for the XJ41, the XJ220 and the XK180, and also the F-Type concept. And his statement was that origami styling that was in fashion in the 1970s was unappealing. He said, "I don't do square lines, I do flowing sculpture, and that's what Jaguars are about." And it was shown that research showed that the sculpture of a Jaguar was in fact its selling point against rivals. In the 1980s, every Jaguar buyer in the United States was contacted by phone and they were recorded to compact cassette that was then sent to Jaguar's chairman John Egan. The board at Jaguar are reported to have listened to every one of these tapes that said that Jaguars were bought due to their emotional appeal. The tapes revealed that the XJ40 with its squarish lines was less popular than the previous XJ Series 3. This led Keith Halford to go retro with the lines of the X300 to appeal to the sculptural themes of the XJ Series 3. Sir William Lyons, the joint founder of Jaguar, had retired in 1972, but he still visited the factory from time to time, and it was observed that his opinion mattered. and it said that in one of these visits he saw the developing XJ41 and is reported to have said, "Let's go with this one." We'll never really know for sure if this was an urban myth, but it seems certain that the XJ41 was the last Jaguar that Sir William Lyons had any input into. And he remained an advisor and gave feedback, even having the XJ41 in a publicity display outside his homes at Wappenbury Hall. So during the 1980s, Jaguar was still part of the British Leyland Group, whose management under Michael Edwards formally approved the planning process for the XJ41, most likely taking into account Sir William Lyons' opinion, and the styling and engineering was signed off for a planned production date of July 1982. Jaguar management had always intended the car to be called the F-Type, with the car expected to be much sportier and better handling than the XJS, which was seen more as a grand tourer. The planned top speed was 160 miles per hour, with a 0 to 60 time of 6.6 seconds being documented during development and testing in Italy. Over time, there were differing views on what the car should be, but it grew with more weight and wider girth, even a twin-turbo version developing 330 brake horsepower. And on further testing in Italy, that twin-turbo car clocked 170 miles per hour. But with the lack of direction and the varying ideas being tested, along with the fact that this was the first project at Jaguar that employed the newly developed computer-aided design, that in itself developed a high learning curve that distracted the designers from the XJ41 project. So it was inevitable that there was going to be a new launch date, which was now moved to 1988. All of those things slowed development, but the most likely reason for the lack of priority to meet the production schedules was that the XJS, with the success of its new AJ6 Cabriolet versions, now selling in really unexpected numbers. So why spoil that and confuse the buying public with another sporting car? So it's now 1988, and the XJ41 has moved away from that simple rear-wheel drive original concept of 1980. For example, the weight target was set in May 1986 at 1,500 kilos, but it eventually grew to 1,807 kilos before the XJ41 was finally canned. However, development did still continue, with Carman coach builders making 3 prototypes, which were prepared for final testing before production. Both convertible and a coupe styles were agreed on, and the coupe having the Rover Tomcat lift-out Targa-type roof. So the XJ41 actually became that close to being a production car. Had the car not been so delayed, things would have been different. And as I said earlier, after Ford's purchase of Jaguar in 1989, the dream came to an end, and the XJ41 was not to be. So what a lost opportunity that could have been. If development had not lost direction and the original focus of a simple sports car had been adhered to. But then again, we wouldn't have had the XK8 or XKR if the XJ41, that's the original F-Type, had gone into production. Thanks for watching.